I don't suffer, no be small. But say I get sense. Poverty no good at all. Now it make I join this business. For one night, no be it's just again. Everybody dey pay up. If anybody follow Mugu, my brother, I go chop back. National airport, National stadium, President, my sister, brother, we be Mugu, I be the master. Oh, man, I go chop your dollar. I go take your money, disappear. For one time in the Betty, we be Mugu, I be the master. The refinery, let me get her. The contract, now you wife. But you won't pay me some more money, make I bring her. We be Mugu, I be the master. When no you go play while them go say na you style. When countryman do you go, you know the shout. All I kill I die. Whatever you go find it, I say, I don't see them fire. That's why when they ever enter my temple, I will show them fire. National airport, National stadium, President, my sister, brother, you be the Mugu, I be the master. The refinery, the contract, now you wife. But you won't pay me some more money than I bring up. Mugu, I be the master. I be the master, oh. I hear you. You know, when I came here earlier for the sound check, I didn't check the sound because I didn't have any interest in checking any sound. I know the sound will come.
And there it is right there. So there it is right there. So another midday session, somewhat. Well, midday where I am. I'm not quite sure what the time zone is. Just as an aside, you know when we say this platform is a global platform, that's actually a literal statement. I am aware of a subscriber that lives in Afghanistan. Can you imagine that? He contacts me via Instagram. We've been talking for years and years. So I'm aware of a subscriber that lives in Afghanistan. I'm also aware of several subscribers that live in India. An abundance of them live in the Middle East, especially Dubai, all over America, all over Europe, of course, the base Nigeria, globally. So when we talk about a global platform, we are actually saying that in a literal sense. So when I say good afternoon, I'm only really speaking from, or it's actually midday where I am now. So when I say good afternoon, I'm literally speaking from where I am, not really to where you are. Because of course, when I say good afternoon, some of you will look out of the window and it's pitch dark, and you are saying, "What is this illiterate man from Oyalafe talking about?" But good day to you. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Isn't a good day? That summarizes the 24 hours clock cycle, doesn't it? So good day. So good day to you. The protocol remains the same. Click on the like button just as soon as you're coming in. Click on like. If you're not already subscribed, please click on subscribe. If you want to join me on the screen, the hyperlink says StreamYard. Click on that. That brings you into a stupid studio space. If you feel inclined, and only if you do feel inclined, super chat towards the stream is the dollar sign at the bottom of the YouTube stream. It's the stars in our YouTube, in our Facebook, and whatever it is on Instagram, Twitch, wherever, all of the multiplicities or spaces that we're streaming to. If you want to nod towards the platform in terms of a monetary donation, then I don't feel that I'm not holding you back from doing that. So just fill your boots, fill your boots. So of course that thematically, the narrative still wraps around the obedient space, the coalition space, and the race for who superintends the Nigerian space come 2027. The front runner, of course, still your President Bola Tinubu, but in very close and aggressive chase now, a coalition put together by Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi are hanging around like that relative that you invited to a party but you hope would not turn up, but he did. So that's Peter Obi right there hanging around like a Mogbomo branch sort of a thing. So all of that in the mix. And the kryptonite, some of you that are follow the comic book space, the Marvel comic book space, you would know what reference that is. The kryptonite to the kryptonite, by the way, for some of you who are not, because I suspect that all you Nigerian yam and egg sort of from the interiors that are listening, you would not understand the reference. But you would know who Superman is. Superman is a comic book hero from the Marvel stable. And is the one thing that brings him down is something called kryptonite. So when I'm saying the kryptonite to Peter Obi, that is a Superman reference. So the kryptonite to the obedient space is, of course, Reno Omokri, who, of course, always holds them to the sword at every single opportunity. So we're now going to spend the rest of the however 1-2 hours that we're going to be streaming for this particular session, reflecting then on Reno Omokri's latest verbosity towards the obedient space. So we're going to be reacting to Reno Omokri's reaction to Peter Obi's latest output. So let's not labor it too much longer. Let's just launch straight into it. We launch straight into it and we pick it up from here.
Issues that have trailed interviews on this program in the past few days, especially the one relating to the former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, the one involving the minister of the FCT, and afterwards the one with Mr. Peter Obi. Tonight I'm being joined by a supporter of Bola Tinubu government and an author and the former presidential aide, Reno Omokri, who's live for us here in Abuja. It's a pleasure having you, Bernard.
Thank you, Sharon.
Your usual Ashoke and Nigerian attire.
Well, that's what I do. 100% of the time, I dress in made in Nigeria.
I see that you, as soon as you saw the interview with Mr. Peter Obi, you were very uncomfortable and you thought that there were a lot of things that you don't agree with. But it does look, there are a lot of people who think that Peter Obi riled you up. And the only reason is because you know that Peter Obi could be a winning factor in 2027. Why does Peter Obi become a problem to you whenever you hear his name?
That's not true. He doesn't rile me up. I rile him up, but he doesn't rile me up. The reason why I had to come here, I had to leave California and come here, is because I'm a patriot. Peter Obi lied. And he lied. There are foreign direct investors who are watching your program and who are making investment decisions not to come to Nigeria. There are foreign investors in Nigeria who are making investment decisions to leave Nigeria because of the lies he told. One of the lies that he told is that the president has borrowed more than the administrations of Yaradua, President Jonathan and Buhari put together. And that's just a blatant lie. I have here with me from the Debt Management Office, and Nigerians who are watching, they can actually go to dmo.gov.ng, or you can go to Google and just put Debt Management Office Nigeria State of Indebtedness 2015. As of 2015, this is a PDF document from the Debt Management Office. Nigeria was owing a total of $63 billion. That's it here. I don't know if your camera can catch it. Now,
So right. We have spoken about that particular this documentation that Reno Omokri is about to talk Shewa Kimbaloye through. We've spoken about that documentation endlessly, copiously on this platform. So Peter Obi went on Shem Okimbaloye's program, and the whole of the however maybe 1 hour that I was there, however the length of time all he did was just to tell lies endlessly. He made up data and statistics, as we know it is his want to do. So we've known Peter B over the years, and it just always makes up data. It just in the land mass of Wagadugu is 1 point something. It just makes up data off the cuff, but now he's now speaking to matters more important. He's speaking to the state of the Nigerian finances. And he didn't have anything to hand. He told us then in that interaction with Chinua Kimbaloye that Tinubu in 2 years has borrowed more than Goodluck, Jonathan, Yadua, and Buhari combined. So he's talking about well in excess of nearly 16 years of administration, all the borrowings. And by the way, the Buhari administration, they borrowed 73 thereabout percent more than the Goodluck Jonathan administration. So they skyrocketed the Nigerian debt by in excess of 70% during the Buhari administration. But what Peter Obi then went on Channels TV to say was that Tinubu had borrowed more than Goodluck, Jonathan Yadua, and Buhari combined. That was what he said, which is just visceral. Your visceral reaction to that is that that would be untrue, because everybody has been tracking the Tinubu administration, and the narrative coming out of that administration is not that of excessive borrowing. So people are very quickly now going to check the data, and of course, as ever the case with Peter Obi, it turns out to be a lie. Not only has Tinubu not borrowed anywhere near the previous administrations, he has significantly and drastically reduced the debt profile that Buhari handed over to him. Buhari handed him over in excess of $116 billion in debt. All of that debt not commensurate with any development, of course. So they borrowed and they stole. But Tinubu has paid down significantly that debt profile that Buhari handed over to round about $93 billion thereabout. So within 2 years, he has reduced the debt burden that Buhari handed him over from $113 billion plus to round about $93 billion thereabout. So it is actually the opposite of what Peter Obi said on our channels TV that actually obtains as the truth. But then Peter Obi, of course, is an instinctual liar. All of his instinct is to make some alarmist lie. Do you remember when he told us in that same interview that he was driving a 404, a 406, Peugeot 406 when he was governor of Anambra State? And when we went to look at his budget in 2012, the budget then tells us that he was budgeting then well in excess of 200 million naira, round about then, no, when naira was actually round about 100 to 1 thereabouts. It was budgeting millions and millions of dollars towards this. So Peter Obi is an instinctual liar. It doesn't have the capacity for truth, because he feels that he has to continue to make alarmist pronouncements for the digestion and delectation and the sustenance of his base. So Peter B, of course, a career liar. But this particular lie that he has told now Reno Omokri could not stomach it and he would not let it stand and is now traversing all of the media spaces, all of the frontline media spaces in Nigeria to put truth to the lies that Obi tells. So we picked up from here.
When Buhari was leaving office, this is from the debt. Actually, go to dmo.gov.ng, or you can go to Google and just put Debt Management Office Nigeria State of Indebtedness 2015. As of 2015, this is a PDF document from the Debt Management Office. Nigeria was owing a total of $63 billion. That's it here. I don't know if your camera can catch it. Now, when Buhari was leaving office, this is from the Debt Management Office. This is not from me. The Debt Management Office was set up by law. We've got people who are apolitical there. They're not members of the PDP, APC, or ADC. Buhari left office, and this is how much we were owing. On the last day of Buhari leaving office, $113 billion. Now, as of today, this is from the Debt Management Office. Our debt has gone from $113 billion to $97 billion, meaning that Bola Tinubu has reduced our debt by over $14 billion. We should be appreciating this man. Yet, Peter Obi came here and lied to the Nigerian people. What did he do? Very manipulatively. He took the debts and then he now translated them into Naira to make it look like the debts have increased. Because don't forget, the Naira has been floated. So today, the Naira is trading at 1,531 Naira to the dollar. So when you now multiply that by what we're owing today, which is $97 billion, it looks as if our debt has gone up in Naira value. But don't forget, these were debts that were taken in dollars, mostly Euro bonds, debts from China, France, and from the Bretton Woods institution. Peter Obi came here and lied, and he told more lies than that. He also lied concerning Nnamdi Kanu. He said,
just for a moment, let's stay on the debt issue.
Yes.
Our debt as it stands in 2015, in 2015 actually, the debt was around 12 trillion. This is the total of foreign and local debts.
Yes.
But as of end of 2024, our debt has risen to 138 trillion. Is that right?
But that's a lie, of course. You see what I especially detest, and you see this all over the Nigerian media space, because Peter Obi is straddling a peculiar sort of zeitgeist. And by the way, if you don't know what the word zeitgeist is, go look it up. It's just pertinent, it's relevant to, it's a spirit of the moment. Essentially, that's what that means, zeitgeist. Because Peter Obi is particularly straddling a peculiar, not even a particular, but a peculiar, because Peter Obi is particularly straddling a peculiar zeitgeist at the moment, and that zeitgeist is particularly vociferous and very intentful, so it generates a lot of traffic. So all these media spaces host that invite him onto their screen, they handle him with very soft gloves because they want the traffic, they want the views, they want the monetization that comes with that. We saw that with Shane Baloye, we saw that with Peter, whatever is Rufai from Arise TV. We saw that in all of the recent media outputs that Peter Obi has been doing. None of them push him in any manner because, of course, they need to keep his base on board because his base is his followership. They are particularly vociferous, they are especially intentful, and they are very aggressive in their push towards their agenda. So there's a lot of traffic coming from there, there's a lot of aggression coming from there, and there's a lot of violence coming from there as well. So all of these hosts, they don't push Peter Obi, but they push his narrative. But because if they were pushing Peter Obi, Shehu Okinbaloye, even though he's not an especially intelligent sort of a person, but the Arise TV is an organization. And as this conversation between Shehu Okinbaloye and Reno Omokri is taking place, as ditto the conversation between Shehu Okinbaloye and Peter Obi, etc., etc., whoever the guest is not so much the host that is asking the question, but the organization that is asking the question. You will notice that Shehu Okinbaloye wears an earpiece. So from that earpiece is getting directions from the back room. So if the guest says anything that is blatantly alarmist and and has all of the veneers, all of the presentations has been untrue, the back room is very quickly able to fact check that and then feed it to the presenter and ask the presenter then to push the guest regarding facts. So they don't do that with Peter Obi. They don't fact check him in real time because, of course, Peter Obi generates a lot of traffic. His followership are especially violent and vociferous, abusive and aggressive, and they don't want the smoke, but they want the traffic. And this is Shenwo Kimbalu is still defending that obedience space, of course, because he knows that he will tap into the traffic later on, or both on his personal YouTube space and for Channels TV. But here is Reno Omokri now saying no, 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 this would not wear.
Issue.
Yes.
Our debt as it stands in 2015, between 2015, in 2015 actually, the debt was around 12 trillion. This is the total of foreign and local debts.
Yes.
But as of end of 2024, our debt has risen to 138 trillion. Is that right?
That is right.
Do you agree with that figure?
That is correct.
So it then means that by April 2025, there are indications that Nigeria's total debt is of 162 trillion naira. Now, if you look at it, it is a fact that we added a bit of debt.
No,
from 2023 and 2025.
No, that's not accurate. We see you have to understand this. This is economics, and I have a master's in international banking and finance law from England. Let me explain it to you. I'm going to give you and the public a little education on this. When you're taking a debt, from.
So, just as an aside, I don't think it's humanly possible to be more detestable and unlikable than Reno Omokri. This is a person that constantly and continuously overcompensates for himself. Oh, I have a master's in XYZ from ABC. Nobody cares about what you have. This guy is all about peacocking, feather flapping, self-aggrandizing, trying to force some sort of importance that society does not accord him. This is Reno Omokri, who is just wrapped up in himself. I wonder if he has the contortion to give himself a blowjob.
For example, a Eurobond debt or from China, it's in dollars. It's not in naira. So that debt is stable. Now, you have the naira is floated. So because the naira is floated, the naira is not stable because it's being driven by the laws of demand and supply. So in 2015, when our debt was 12 trillion naira, the value of the naira, it was pegged at 196 naira. So when you multiply that, that's why you get 12 trillion. If you take that same amount of money and multiply it by today's value of the naira, which is 1,531, it's not going to be 12 trillion. It's going to be something like maybe about 100 billion. Something close to that. So when you're taking General Buhari's debt, when he left office, it was $113 billion. Yeah, you're not multiplying it by what it was today. You're multiplying it then to get that figure by what the value of the naira was then, which was between 4.
I hope you're understanding what this guy is talking about. Let me speak to the Igbo trading sort of mindset. They tell us they're traders, they're businessmen, etc. So let me use an example to make the point. So you borrow £100 from me, $100, €100, whatever, and the conversion rate then, when you borrowed that €100 from me, was 100 or let's say 10 to 1. Let's say 10 to 1. This is just for the purposes of example. You borrow £100 from me, and the conversion rate then was 100 to 1. So to all intents and purposes, that €100 then is about what? What's 100 multiplied by it's about €300. So that £100 that you borrowed from me at the conversion of let's say you borrowed £30. You borrowed £30 from me at a conversion rate of 100 to 1. So what you are owing me in Nigerian local currency is 300 pounds thereabout. So you borrow 30 pounds, the conversion rate is 100 to 1, so it's now 300 pounds. So now suddenly the currency gets liberalized. So now that naira now is 1,000 naira to 1. So I'm still owing you that 30 pounds, but the conversion now makes it so that the 30 pounds now, if it's converted, it will be round about £3. So what the argument of Peter Obi, that's sort of the logical space that Peter Obi is. It has no coherence with anything that aligns with logical reason. And Peter Obi will tell you that he is a banker, even though we know that he's semi-illiterate, but there it is.
140 and eventually about close to 700. And that's how you got that amount. Today, the naira is 1,531 naira. So when you multiply that, the dollar amount, which is 97 billion, multiply it by that, it makes it seem as if our debt has exploded.
Are you saying that Tinubu government did not borrow any money?
Tinubu government has borrowed money, but they've also repaid money. So, for example, we were owing the IMF. We are no longer owing the IMF at all. What we are actually paying to the IMF right now is what they call drawing rights. A drawing right is just like if you have a MasterCard.
Do you see now why I say Shewon Okinbaloye's IQ is extremely low? So he's asking then, are you now saying that Tinubu's government did not borrow any money? What in all of the explanations that Reno Omokri has just given indicates that is indicating that Tinubu did not borrow any money. He's talking about the debt profile of the country, and this guy just lumps in an obedient raw meat question into that conversation. That is to tell you then that either Sheun Okinbaloye's IQ is extremely low, which a lot of people think that it is, or probably a lesser explanation that is pandering to the obedience base.
If you have a MasterCard, even if you pay your American Express or your MasterCard off, you're still going to be paying a yearly annual fee as a member. So our total indebtedness to the
And by the way, sorry, I just dropped that. I'll put it back up. By the way, say hello in the comment section as you are coming in. Let's make friends. Let's keep the conversation going on in there. I interact with the comment section just as I'm live streaming as well. So if you want to say hello, so I can acknowledge your presence, say hello in the comment section.
IMF has been paid, and it's actually there on the IMF's.
So the question that a lot of people will be asking is that you want to paint it as though Tinubu government is not getting any loan, but they are actually.
Yeah, they're getting loan. It's just like what the governor of Zamfara said to you. People are leaving the PDP. People are joining the PDP. Yes, this government is taking loans, and this government is also paying loans. So the government is paying more loans than they are taking. That is why our debt has reduced.
So let's ask ourselves a question. Just remember, let's ask ourselves a question. What currency do we produce?
What currency?
In Nigeria, in what currency do we produce?
We produce in the naira.
In naira.
Yeah.
So if we are going to convert and pay any debt, are we not going to take that same naira to convert it to dollar to pay our debts?
That doesn't make sense. If you're taking a domestic debt, then that's when that happens, because you're taking a domestic debt in naira.
But when you're paying, whichever currency that you take the debt, you are paying in that currency.
Yes.
But I am saying to you, your earnings is mostly in what? In your local currency.
Look at how idiotic that question is. I keep saying that Sheun Okinbaloye's IQ is extremely low. Your earnings is in your local currency. Which earnings of Nigeria is in the local currency? Nigeria is an export-based economy. It's a retract. Do you know when they say a retractive economy? Just take this for your education. Nigeria is a retractive economy. R-E, you know how to spell retractive. So Nigeria is a retractive economy. So what does that mean? It means that they take something out of the soil and then they export it for an earning. Saudi Arabia is a retractive economy. A lot of the economies globally, they are retractive economies. So if you're a retractive economy, how can your earnings be in your local currency? What transaction does the Nigerian economy transact at the national level that generates income at the local level. It's only now that we're trying to craft some sort of a taxation income generation. That's never happened in the history of that country. Tinubu bringing it to the fore. So our earnings is not actually the abundance of our earnings is not in the local currency, but in the internationalized dollarized space. But then, of course, somebody like Sheon Okinbaloye could never know this, of course, because he, of course, is barely educated.
Yeah.
So if we are going to convert and pay any debt, are we not going to take that same naira, getting any loan? But they are actually.
Yeah, they're getting loan. It's just like what the governor of Zamfara said to you. People are leaving the PDP. People are joining the PDP. Yes, this government is taking loans, and this government is also paying loans. So the government is paying more loans than they are taking. That is why our debt has reduced.
So let's ask ourselves the question. Just remember,
okay.
Let's ask ourselves the question: What currency do we produce?
What currency?
In Nigeria, in what currency do we produce?
We produce in the naira.
In naira.
Yeah.
So if we are going to convert and pay any debt, are we not going to take that same naira to convert it to dollar to pay our debts?
That doesn't make sense. If you're taking a domestic debt, then that's when that happens, because you're taking a domestic debt in naira.
But when you are paying, whichever currency that you take the debt, you are paying in that currency.
Yes.
But I am saying to you, your earnings is mostly in what? In your local currency.
Well,
your wealth.
If you look at our earnings, that's not quite accurate. You see, you have to understand, a lot of people don't realize this.
I'm not quite sure why Reno said that's not quite accurate. When did Reno start being a polite person? He should have just told him frontally that was an idiotic statement to make. Our earnings, if you think that Nigeria's earnings is predominantly in the local currency, please tell me in the comment section so I can call you an idiot. Only an idiot will make such a statement. Nigeria is an export-based sort of economy, an extractive export-based economy, which is to tell you then that the abundance of the country's earnings is from the international space. But then, of course, as I said, semi-illiterate.
15% of Nigeria's GDP is oil and gas. However, oil and gas is more than about maybe something like 75% of our foreign exchange earnings. So we are earning in dollars. For example, even if you're going to the port, the Nigerian Ports Authority, the Nigerian Ports Authority is earning in dollars. So we have a lot. We're earning in dollars. But the point I'm trying to make, Sean, let's not complicate things for your audience. If you borrow from a Nigerian bank in naira, you pay back in naira. If you borrow from the Eurobond or from China or from France or from the Bretton Woods institutions in dollars, you pay back in dollars. As at today, our total indebtedness has actually reduced. It has reduced from $113 billion to $97 billion. Peter Obi came to your program and lied. That was a lie. It was an economic sabotage to Nigeria. And the man knew this. If he did not know that, that means he's ignorant, and that means that he shouldn't be running for office. He also told other lies. He told lies about Nnamdi Kanu. He was asked a question by you, and he said...
No, I don't want us to go yet away from economy.
Okay.
The economy of this country, the productivity level of this country, there are major levels of the economy that have been weakening or troubled. One is the capacity of production, which inflation and the rest, all major indices of our economy are in the negative.
That's not true.
I said major of our economy indices are in the negative.
Well, that's not true again.
Okay.
I mean, I did in fact. I don't deal in opinions.
So let's look at it. What are your unemployment figures?
Well, the unemployment figures in Nigeria has actually improved. Now, please allow me to land. Okay. But the major thing you want to talk about, you talked about production. We're not talking about now. When you're talking about production, in Nigeria, we have a surplus of $14.1 billion. That has never happened before. What that means is that we are now exporting more than importing. That is a major plus. Not just that, we had a 3.84 GDP growth rate last year. When did we have that? We had 2 recessions under Buhari. Have we had a recession now? And not just that, if you look at it now, steadily, the inflation rate has been reducing. That's because the policies put by this administration are working.
After the rebasing.
Yeah, no, the rebasing has not happened. The rebasing is going to happen. I think the rebasing is coming up next week, they said.
But what was the inflation rate?
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, did you hear that? Reno Omokri is letting this guy get away with too much. This guy is telling us that all of the indices of the economy is in regression, which is an absolute counterfact lie. All of the indices of the economy are in the upward curve, as has been elucidated now by Reno Omokri. And then what was the last thing that he just said that made me pause? Let's just hear it again.
Happen. The rebasing is going to happen. I think the rebasing is coming up next week.
And then he's also telling us then that the economy has been rebased. When was the Nigerian economy rebased? The Nigerian economy has not been rebased. That is why the economy is still falsely tracking as the third in the African space. When they rebase the Nigerian economy, it will reflect a near 700 billion, 750 billion traction. When they rebase the economy, that will be what the traction space is. So the economy has not been rebased, but Asheun Okunbaloye, sitting in the host seat of the frontline media outlet in Nigeria, is telling a counterfact narrative that the Nigerian economy has been rebased. Why would he say such a thing? Even somebody as illiterate as he is.
Is that we are now exporting more than we are importing. That is a major plus. Not just that, we had a 3.84 GDP growth rate last year. When did we have that? We had two recessions under Buhari. Have we had a recession now? And not just that, if you look at it now steadily, the inflation rate has been reducing. That's because the policies put by this administration are working.
After the rebasing.
Yeah, no, the rebasing has not happened. The rebasing is going to happen. I think the rebasing is coming up next week, they said.
So it should have pushed him harder on that actually. After the rebasing, when did that rebasing take place? Is what Reno should have put to the half-witted Amala Muncher that presents himself as a host.
But what was the inflation rate when Bola Tinubu got into office and now?
Well, the inflation rate when Bola Tinubu got into office was quite high under Buhari. I think what you're trying to talk about was the inflation rate under Jonathan, which was at single digits. So let us focus on production because you talked about production. The best factor to gauge production is your trade surplus because that's what is that's what.
So in your own view, you think that the economy is doing better under Bola Tinubu?
It's not on my own view. I'm talking about the facts. The facts are there. We are exporting.
Where were we pre-Bola Tinubu and now?
Yeah, pre-Bola Tinubu and now, our debts have reduced, our production has increased. The all-share index of the Nigerian Stock Exchange has hit 3 times all-time high. As a matter of fact, last year we overtook Argentina as the most profitable stock market in the whole world. Right now, we are the second most profitable stock market in Africa after Zimbabwe.
What do you say to our exchange rate?
Our exchange, and see, that is the thing. That is a form of the economic illiteracy of a lot of people. Our exchange rate has never been 196 or 400 naira.
And by the way, when he says that is the economic illiteracy of a lot of people, that was an aside towards the host. By the way, is essentially saying to Sheon Okibaloye that you have said that only because you're an idiot. And by the way, if you want us to bring up the chart, you can. The Nigerian exchange rate has exponentially degenerated under every single administration. What it was, I can do a quick Google search if you want to see it, and I probably will do it. Whatever it was under Obasanjo, it fell. It degenerated quite sharply under Yadwa, degenerated quite aggressively under Goodluck Jonathan. It plummeted under Buhari and is falling also under Tinubu. So if you look at the percentile degeneration of the naira relative to international currency, there's been a consistent, sharp, and an aggressive degeneration of that currency vis-a-vis international money all the way through the fourth administration, right from Obasanjo till date. It's only now that degeneration is being addressed by the free floating of the naira, and that is really what Reno Omokri is telling to his Yoruba host, the Amala Muncher, that is pretending to be a journalist.
At that time, our exchange rate was being subsidized. People make the mistake. They forget that the subsidy on the naira was actually higher than the subsidy on fuel. We were spending about $1 billion every month on fuel, but we were spending $1.5 billion every month to subsidize the naira. And that was what was keeping the naira at that rate. It was not the real value of the naira.
Just pause for a moment and reflect on that. We were spending $1 billion approximately, almost certainly vastly above that, to defend for our fuel subsidy, and we were spending $1.5 billion to defend the naira. So that's in excess of 2.5, near on $3 billion every single month from Obasanjo till date. So a lot of, if you're talking about the fight against corruption, the biggest fight against corruption that has ever taken place within the Nigerian paradigm is what is taking place now under Tinubu. The removal of the subsidy in the foreign exchange space and the removal of the subsidy in the petroleum space is singularly or jointly the two biggest anti-corruption move that has ever happened in the history of that country. So in the history of that country, this is the first instance that we're actually seeing a fight against corruption. And as we're seeing with the coalition of the damned, arrow-headed by Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, corruption is fighting back.
When Bola Tinubu came in, he said, no, that cannot happen because we were not using that subsidized naira to do things that were going to be valuable for the economy.
In your analysis, Mr. Omokri.
No, please let me land, please. We were using that, we were freaking it away. So he said, this is what happens in America, this is what happens in the United Kingdom. We are going to float the currency and allow the laws of demand and supply determine the naira rate. That is not devaluation, that is flotation. Devaluation is when, like what happened in Egypt, you peg your currency at, say, maybe 200 Egyptian pounds to $1. And then you come out and say, okay, no, I'm going to now peg it at 400. That is devaluation. What happened in Nigeria is flotation. And that is now the market is now determining the naira's value.
So in your own analysis, and you say that the economy has done better under President Bola Tinubu in the last 2 years, but what happens to the purchasing power of the average person? What happens to the livelihoods of the average person? What happens to the ability of the person to be able to feed and transport?
Well, should we continue to go into debt because we want to now start to give our people an artificial luxury? We were borrowing so much under General Buhari. Don't forget, the reason why Godwin Emefiele is in jail is because we took a loan of 28.
He's under trial.
Well, he's in jail. That's why I didn't say prison. There's a difference. When you're under trial, they put you in jail. When you have been convicted, you go to prison. There is a reason why Godwin Emefiele is in jail because he took loans of 28 trillion naira without informing the National Assembly. What were they using that money to do? They were using that money to artificially inflate the value of the naira. And so we were living in a fool's paradise. Bola Tinubu has taken that away, and now we are now living at our own means. So we cannot be borrowing because we want to give our people food. We have to produce, and that's why we are now producing now, because exports are going up. Imports are reducing. We now have, like I said before, a $14.1 billion straight surplus.
What about the impression on the average person? That's the question I asked you.
Yeah, the thing is, the impression on the average person is this. We have to look inward. Look at me.
And continue to suffer.
No.
The person that is in pain.
Please, allow me answer your question. Allow me answer your question. We have to look inwards. Look at me. Everything I'm wearing from head to toe is made in Nigeria. That's good for our economy. Not taking $4 billion. To that we are a country. One of the largest.
And by the way, apologies for the skittishness of the. It's not my doing. That's how the feed is coming through from Channels TV. But it only happens momentarily. It will get back to normalcy fairly soon.
Proven oil and gas reserves, but Venezuela is a basket case. We were going that way if not for Bola Tinubu, who said, no, we cannot keep on borrowing because we want to please people. We have to leave. Of course, Bola Tinubu. Look, Everything that Bola Tinubu is doing are the things that both Peter Obi and Waziri Atiku said they were going to do. They said they were going to remove fuel subsidy. In fact, Peter Obi, I've got the tape, you can watch it on my social media platform. He said, I'm going to remove fuel subsidy immediately. The same thing that Waziri Atiku said. Bola Tinubu has done it. Both of them said they were going to float the naira. Bola Tinubu has done it. Both of them said they were going to devolve power from the federal to the local government. Bola Tinubu has done it.
But why does it look like Bola Tinubu is losing popularity?
Listen, that is always the case in Nigeria. The best predictor of the future is the past. In every administration, when you have the two-way mark of your first term, when people are feeling the effects of your reform, they're going to have that kind of feeling. But by the time the government gets to the three-way mark, this is history. It happened to General Obasanjo. It happened to, because Yar'Adua did not have that because of the sickness. It happened to President Jonathan. It happened to Buhari, even worse than is happening to Bola Tinubu.
In fact, I was saying in a previous stream, what Reno Omokri is talking about there is not a peculiarly Nigerian thing. It's a global norm. They call it a midterm blues. Midterm blues. Every single administration in every single democracy in every single country in the world, anytime they get into the midway space, midway term of their however long term, the country always recoils from them a little bit because they are feeling the negative impacts of reforms. So this is what is going on in Nigeria as well. And really, if people have because of course people have to look at a visceral life experience of a government in order to make the assessment then. And the Nigerian assessment is always wrapped around the price of Gari. So, what is the price of Gari in the market is always the metric that is always used to assess the success or lack thereof of an administration. But that particular assessment now is anomalous, or whatever that term is, anomalous to what the redirection of the country is. So even I'm going to bring you a clip from Lamido Sanusi at the moment. He's always told us, this is going back 6 years, he's been telling us over the last 6 years, even before Tinubu came in, that whoever is going to reform Nigeria and repoint it in the direction that the country should be traveling, whoever is going to do that is going to have to take the country through a pain period. And if that person does not take the country through that pain period, then that person is either disingenuous or they lack the capacity to understand what needs to be done. This is what the economic space has always agreed, that Nigeria has lived large on a false life for too long. And when the moment of reckoning comes, the country has to go through a pain period to redirect. And that is what is going on now.
And we are beginning to see things are getting better. Look, your governor was talking about it. The agricultural input of Nigeria has improved. So things are going to get better. Listen, can I say this? Nigeria is not going to get to El Dorado overnight, but we are going to get there over time.
So let me ask you.
Please, I'd like to talk about the lie that Peter Obi said.
Okay.
So that was a rehearsed line, by the way. He's been practicing that, looking for a conversation to slot it in. Nigeria is not going to get to El Dorado overnight, but over time. So he had practiced that, and he's been looking for a conversation to slot that in. So that very much a pre-prepared rehearsed line.
About Nnamdi Kanu, because it was a dangerous lie.
What upset you about that?
Said no. What I mean, I wasn't upset. It was the lie. He said that the trial of Nnamdi Kanu does not make sense. Listen, I played you a video which we cannot play because of the NBC. Can you testify that you heard the video? Can you tell your audience?
Yeah, I heard the video.
Now you heard him telling his supporters to kill policemen, to kill soldiers, to burn down Lagos. After he gave that video, do you know how many police and how many soldiers have died in the southeast? Over 50. As a matter of fact, there was a couple, an army couple. Her name was Gloria Matthews. Her husband was Linus. They were killed and beheaded in Imo. Do you know who killed Ahmed Gulak in Imo?
If Nnamdi Kanu does not get capital punishment, and then I think then a lot of questions will be asked by both the northerners and also the southwesterners. Nnamdi Kanu is almost like it's like a Netanyahu sort of a figure, like a Hitler sort of a figure, and that guy should get the fullness of whatever brutality that the Nigerian state can vest upon him. The amount of lives that Nnamdi Kanu, and by extension is homosexual party man in Finland, the amount of lives that these people have seen of this planet is unquantifiable.
Who killed Harira Jubril with her 4 underage children. 160 police stations were shut down in the southeast. Why? Because IPOB, UGM, unknown gunmen, and ESN, they attacked them. They killed over 24 policemen. And then you are saying that the trial of a person who ordered this does not make sense. Look, as I speak to you right now, Finland is trying Simon Ekpa. Simon Ekpa is not even as guilty as Nnamdi Kanu. He has not done a half of what Nnamdi Kanu has done. Is Peter Obi going to tell the Finnish government that the trial...
Nnamdi Kanu is still not found guilty yet because he's facing trial?
Yes, but I can give my opinion. This is not fact. This is an opinion. Is Peter Obi going to tell the Finnish government that the trial of Simon Ekpa does not make sense? Look, Peter Obi gives an opinion on everything that happens in Nigeria, but he did not talk about the trial of Simon Ekpa. He did not condemn it. He did not condemn what Simon Ekpa did. So this man has separatist tendencies. He has never condemned the Monday sit at home. In fact, when he goes to Anambra, he obeys it. Look, if you are a policeman, if you are a soldier, is this the kind of commander-in-chief that you want to have? Somebody who says that a person who ordered the killing of your brothers in arms, his trial does not make sense? No. And then he lied about the convoy. He said that he'd never seen a presidential convoy with ambulances. I went on profiles. I put videos of President Trump's convoy.
You know, that's just some of the endless unnecessary lies that Peter Obi tells. There is no presidential convoy or even a state governor convoy, not in Nigeria but on this planet, that doesn't have a medical team attached to it. The medical team, they have a medical stream of cars within that convoy, and within that medical team, the medical needs, the emergency medical needs of the president or the principal that's been conveyed is blood. You know, for his blood type, this blood type is there. Whatever ailment is there that is afflicting him is there. The treatment, emergency treatment for it is there. As steroids, all manners of emergency response is usually part of the retinue of a president. Go to Russia, look at the convoy of Vladimir Putin, and you'll see that there was a medical team embedded within that convoy. There's a medical convoy embedded within that convoy. Ditto the King of England, ditto the Prime Minister of England, ditto the President of America, ditto the President of Algeria, or ditto any president anywhere in the world. All of their convoys have a medical team. But Peter Obi, of course, because he knows that his followership are barely literate, he says any lies that comes to his head to them.
With at least 2 ambulances of the President Putin's convoy, with at least 2 ambulances. He likes Indonesia. He went to Indonesia. I put videos of the president of Indonesia with 2 ambulances. Even Sierra Leone, that tiny country, the president moves with 2 ambulances.
But does it make sense for us to have ambulances on the convoy?
Of course,
but there are no
sense.
Ambulances in the hospital where they need this?
Which hospital do you not have ambulances? Can you cite examples of the hospitals in Nigeria that do not have ambulances? Because of course, this is another just. I'm not quite so. This Shenwo Kimbaloye, he continues to diminish in estimation the more he follows that track line. Just leave that space to Rufai Hussaini and do try and hold on to your integrity. Which hospital in Nigeria does not have a retinue of ambulances? Name that hospital so we can go and fact check.
Listen to this, we are a poor country that is trying to get better. We cannot have everything at once. But listen, the only president that we had in Nigeria that did not have a convoy, his name was General Murtala Mohammed. What happened? He was killed on February 13, 1976. Now, the mistake a lot of people make is Bukka Sinka Diga just shot Murtala Mohammed and went away. No, when he shot Murtala Mohammed, he didn't shoot Murtala Mohammed. He left. And
we need to close now.
Okay.
So you are going to pick Atiku Abubakar over Bola Tinubu in 2027?
I'm going to pick Bola Tinubu, and I've said it there. If an election is being held today and the candidates are Peter Obi, Waziri Atiku Abubakar, and President Bola Tinubu, not only will I vote for President Bola Tinubu, I will galvanize support. I will bring money from my own pocket and I will campaign for Bola Tinubu because he is doing what we in the People's Democratic Party said we're going to do. 4 things: devolve power from the federal to the local government, float the naira, remove fuel subsidy, and give student loans. Bola Tinubu is a transformational leader.
Loses the election in 2027, what would you do?
Look, I have a successful business. I have a successful life. This year alone, I've traveled to how many countries? I will keep on doing what I'm doing. Look, I am a patriot. I came here from California because somebody was undermining my country. I am a man of means. I do not depend on the government. So if Bola Tinubu is no longer president and another person is president, if the president is not doing what I believe that he ought to be doing, just as I fought Buhari, I will fight that person.
All right. Reno Omokri is an author and a former presidential aide. Thank you so much indeed. And I wish you a safe journey in.
So that was Seun Okinbaloye's half-witted engagement with Reno Omokri. But like I said, Reno Omokri here has been traversing the whole of the Nigerian media landscape in order then to put fact to the lies that Peter Obi spilled a few days ago. So here he is now on Peter Obi's own home platform, Arise, speaking to Peter Obi's own clansman, Charles Anyagole. So let's see how that pans out.
The opposition and some ruling party members came together in the ADC coalition as a reasonably united influencer.
And by the way, we'll only take about 10-15 minutes of this just because of the pressure of time. I'm going to shut it down on the hour, which gives us about 55 minutes.
Reno Omokri, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Charles.
You've been traveling, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
I mean, you've got a lot of energy, mate. I mean, because coming from one time zone to another and being able to kind of go through the day, that is impressive. Well, let's start with the news of the former secretary to the government. I think you were at that book launch today.
I wasn't, but I saw that. I saw what he said.
Yeah, Boss Mustafa saying today at the book launch of Garba Shehu, President Buhari's former spokesman, that the notion that Tinubu was the force that helped Buhari win the presidential election in 2015 is false. He says that Buhari brought 12 million votes and collectively the other parties in the APC coalition contributed just over 3 million votes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Boss Mustafa was just being silly. And we have people like that who are trying to cause friction between President Buhari and President Tinubu. Look, President Buhari had a captive vote of 12 million. He's always had that since 2003. What did he do for him? He lost in 2003. He lost in 2007. He lost in 2011. He was only able to win when something from the South was added to his captive 12 million votes. Look, the way the Nigerian Federation has been structured, right from the Constituent Assembly of the General Obasanjo military area, is such that no tribal lord can ever become president of Nigeria. And it's being done deliberately. So you can have all of the votes that you have in your captive area. If you do not get other votes outside your geopolitical zone, you're not going to become president. And he needed Bola Tinubu. Without Bola Tinubu, Nigeria's history would have not been the same. President Jonathan would have won that election, and General Buhari would have just been a little, just a tiny dot, like he likes to say about the Southeast, in a dot, in a circle.
Well, let's move on from that because there are a lot of things. I mean, I'd love to talk to you about. It's not often that we get you sitting in the studio. We don't know yet, for example, much about this ADC coalition. There's no clear...
Even they don't know much about their coalition.
Well, there's clear documentary...
And by the way, if anybody knows how to reach out to this guy, Reno Omokri, I'd love to have him on the platform. I've been trying to make that happen for quite a few months now, but I don't have the reach. Maybe I can have the reach to reach into him. But if anybody has the reach to reach into Reno Omokri, we'd like to have him on the platform. I think he'd be an excellent guest for this space.
reference to it yet and what it actually stands for. So a lot of conjecture and inference.
And by the way, if you have that reach, send it to me via Instagram. So I'll put my Instagram link in the comment section now. So if you have the reach to send to Reno Omokri to have him appear to come and be a guest, contact me via Instagram. My link right there in the comment section.
At the moment. Given that, what are your thoughts on what we know so far?
Well, what we know is that this is a party built on grudge against Bola Tinubu. I mean, if you look at what they said, this is an anti-Tinubu coalition. That's what I'm quoting them. So it's not a pro-Nigeria coalition; it's an anti-Tinubu coalition. I mean, how can that stand when you're coming together based on enmity? It cannot work. So you need to come together based on principles. Parties are built on ideology, on principles. Parties are not built on hate. Look, Peter Obi was asked the question, what party are you? And then he stammered and said, oh, he's in Labour Party. But how can you be in Labour Party and still be in ADC? Look, they don't have any governor. The senators that they have are fringe senators who are just one leg in their party and one leg out of their party. So how can they say that they are a party? They're just a ragtag coalition. And the condition of that coalition is confusion.
But broadly speaking, Reno, in terms of stylistics and focus, I mean, we can authoritatively say that, like the APC, when it came into being just over a decade ago, the aim of the ADC coalition is to remove the president and his APC party from power. I mean, you don't need any particular illumination to figure that out.
The ADC.
Yeah, but to what end is the wider question. So, of course, the intention of the coalition is to remove Tinubu from power and install Atiku Abubakar as the president. But to what end? Because it's a false comparison to draw the parallel between what happened to Goodluck Jonathan and what is happening now, and the formation of the APC to the formation of this coalition. The APC was formulated to push a weak president out of power. The coalition is being formulated now to force an effective government out of power, to foist then a tribal, corrupt sort of administration. If Atiku Abubakar ever becomes the president in 2027, I can tell you things that will happen immediately, because we already have the antecedent when Buhari replaced Goodluck Jonathan. The first thing, do you remember when Buhari replaced Goodluck Jonathan? Goodluck Jonathan told us that he left in excess of $3 billion in the foreign reserves account. When Buhari came in, he told us there was zero amount, $0 in the foreign reserves account. So between those two statements is the Buhari administration looting that $3 billion that Goodluck Jonathan left to pay themselves and make a profit from the expenses that they spent to remove Goodluck Jonathan out of office. So if Atiku becomes president, this 40 something, by the time Atiku comes in, it will be 50 something billion dollars that Tinubu has built into the foreign reserves. That will be gone within 2 weeks. They will wipe it all out and tell you that they made zero sum there. So they would loot that. The Lagos Calabar Superhighway is a southern leaning sort of project. Atiku will abandon that immediately and either steal all of the money and put a little bit in the north. So that's that. All of the savings, it will not reinstate the fuel subsidy, by the way. I think even you are not dumb enough to think that Atiku will reinstate the fuel subsidy. It won't do that. It will not reinstate the subsidy in the naira space. It won't do that. So everything, all of that will remain the same, and it will say that it's able to manage it better. But all of those savings, that's nearly $3 billion monthly savings that the country now saves from that subsidy space. Atiku will loot it. It will sell the NNPC to the Arabs, because that is what he told us he would do in all of the campaigns that he has campaigned, 2019, 2023, etc., etc. He said he would liquidize the NNPC, and that's one of the first things he would do. He would liquidize all of the Nigerian sovereign assets and sell them all off. it will wreck that country completely. The students' loan fund will be gone because he doesn't really care about all those sorts of spaces. The credit cost scheme will be gone. So all of these initiatives that are fledgling are now coming into the mainstream that this administration has been initiating. All of them completely gone. The foreign reserve completely looted, and we will revert back to a Buhari style administration. So that's what you will get with Atiku Abubakar. And make no mistake, have no equivocation. There are only two possibilities for your presidency in 2027. The greatest likelihood Tinubu continues a distinct distance, but really, nevertheless, a real possibility. Atiku Abubakar replaces him. So Peter Obi is never going to be president in 2027. So it's either going to be Atiku or Tinubu. If it's Tinubu, then you start to see the compounding of all of these policy reforms that will then bring succor to the Nigerian state and stabilize it as a functioning economy. You will see that. And then you see the completion of the Lagos Calabar Superhighway, the Sokoto Badagry Superhighway, all of these infrastructural and human capital development initiatives, all of that will come into very much the mainstay of the mainstream. But if you get Atiku Abubakar, it will be a total reset, and then he will come with his own set of agendas, which would not be too dissimilar to what you had under Buhari. So those are the choices that Nigeria has to make 2027.
Is nothing like the APC. When the APC came into power, the APC had governors. They had about 12 of them. Immediately, they had governors. They had a sitting member of the House of Reps, a speaker. They had senators. They had powerful individuals. This party doesn't have that. Look, the mover, the main talkative in this party is a guy called Nasir El-Rufai. I know him. He was my client when I was a political consultant. I ran a political consulting firm. And guess what? He submitted his name to be a minister under the Tinubu administration. He went to the National Assembly to defend it.
He's not denying that.
Yeah, well, he did deny that, actually. No, that's not factual. He actually denied that. He said that he never wanted to be a minister.
He said he was asked to become a minister, and obviously he then went through the motions.
He went to the National Assembly, he gave glowing speeches, he tried to be a minister, and he was rejected by the National Assembly. Only then did he now remember that Tinubu is a bad person. That sucks. Now let's talk about Peter Obi. Peter Obi is having problems in the Labour Party. He doesn't know if he has the clout to pull off what he pulled off in 2023. So he's looking for an alternative route. And so he's now putting one leg in the ADC, but he's not even sure. He says that he's still a member of the Labour Party. Now let's talk about the People's Democratic Party. Let's talk about those members of the People's Democratic Party who are coming into the ADC. How many of them control their states? None of them control their states. None of them. As a matter of fact, this guy, Nasir El-Rufai, his own son was at the venue where President Bola Tinubu was endorsed for a second term, and the boy was shouting enthusiastically. If you cannot convince your own first son to support you, how do you think you can convince Nigerians?
Yeah, but to be fair, this may not be for you, but there are many who might be encouraged and even inspired by the fact that heavyweights like Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, two of Tinubu's biggest challengers in the last election, being the face of this coalition, in addition, of course, to the likes of, as you mentioned, Nasir El-Rufai, Rotimi Amechi, David Mark, Rauf Arebesola, Uche Secondus, etc.
Well, one thing that these people all have in common is that they all lost in 2023. All of them. All the names that you mentioned, they all lost in 2023.
Yeah, so what if they lost?
Yeah, so if you form a...
many of them don't even believe.
Can I answer your question?
Lost.
If you form a losers' convention, so, why should I be afraid of you? You're forming a losers' convention. Why should I be afraid of you? It happens all the time. In the United States, we see people forming a losers' convention. When you gather negative thinkers together, there's more negativity.
Right. Well, that's one way of looking at it. The other way is that there is a certain logic behind it. They don't want to split their vote, which collectively beat Tinubu hands down in 2023. Tinubu got 30 37% of the vote. Atiku and Obi combined got 54%.
I don't think I don't think Reno Omokri should let this obedient vote host rather. I don't think Reno Omokri should let that obedient host get away with that. The collective votes of Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi do not beat Peter Tinubu because the votes of 2023 they are not a carryover to 2027. All of the reasons that people voted for Peter Obi in 2023 are no longer in play for 2027. So Peter Obi's core vote has boiled down to its core essence, which is the Southeasterners predominantly, and a few straggling votes of the was some sort of element, the Yuppies in Yoruba land and maybe a little bit in the middle belt. But so what Peter Obi's vote has now boiled down to is the core tribal essence of it, which is the southeast, and a few straggling yuppies from all of the other southern spaces and a little bit from the middle belt. So the condensation of all of that is not even up to 3 million votes. So it is anomalous. It's a misdirected truth. It's somewhat of it's a counter intuition to suggest that Peter Obi carries through any 6 million votes and ditto the votes of Atiku Abubakar as well.
So on that score, would you concede that they appear to have learned some lessons from the last election, because both Atiku and Obi feel that they might have won on a joint ticket in 2023?
That means you're not up to date. Because in his last interview on channels, Peter Obi said, and I'm quoting him, "I will contest the 2027 election."
But a joint ticket, let me just make this point. A joint ticket doesn't mean that they're necessarily running that. In other words, that they're combining forces.
Yeah, but if Peter Obi says he's running, if Waziri Atiku Abubakar says he's running.
Well, he hasn't said that.
Waziri Atiku Abubakar has not said he's running. Oh, please. Anyway, but let me just finish now. So if Peter Obi says that he's going to run, if we are seeing from every indication that Waziri Atiku Abubakar wants to run, if we are seeing Amechi submitting a proposal to the ADC officially for a one-term presidency, I mean, who have you seen any coalition there? There's no coalition. What you're just seeing is egos, different egos. The man, Peter Obi, is based on what has happened in the past. Is very unlikely to get the ticket of the ADC, because if you see what's happening with the ADC, he doesn't have that clout within the ADC. I have a good idea who's likely going to get the ticket. It's likely going to go to a northerner. And the man has said, I'm definitely going to run. So what you just said, that premise is wrong. There is no coalition. There is no joining of forces. This is just egos going here, and there.
But would you concede, Reno, that with all these people coming together from various parties, both ruling and opposition, this is arguably the biggest shakeup in Nigerian political history since the APC came in, some 12 years ago?
But I answered that question already. How can it be a shakeup when you cannot shake up your family? Nasir El-Rufai's son is in the APC and endorsed the president. How can it be a shake-up when you cannot shake up your own state? Tell me, which of these people controls their state, that their governor has gone with them? Name one. You cannot, because it doesn't exist. Rauf Aregbesola in Osun State doesn't control his governor. Peter Obi does not control his governor. His governor is very virulently opposed to him. Nasir El-Rufai has been indicted by the Kaduna State House of Assembly. So which of them? I'm never going to
speak.
But
Peter Obi still won the state. Well, and won a lot of other states.
Yeah, he won the state.
In spite of not controlling those states, as you put it.
Yeah, but...
the suggestion from you is that if you have a governor, in other words, you almost seem to, without putting words into your mouth, hearken back to the old way of doing politics in Nigeria, that the governor is the person who clamps down on the voting capacity of the state. I mean, when people are free to cast their votes for whoever they want to vote for.
Now, we're talking about two different things. You're talking about the general election, we're talking about the primary. Now, we're talking about who is going to get the ticket. Because if Peter Obi does not get the ticket of the ADC, he's going to run under the LP because he has
Well,
said...
he's going to run under another party, but we don't know yet.
Because he has said that he is a member of the Labour Party. So the logical thing to do is to run on the Labour Party. So we're talking about, first of, let's put first things first. We're talking about getting the primary ticket. So we are not seeing any of them controlling their governors, controlling their states. So these are just malcontents. These are disgruntled people. These are losers coming together, like I said, to form a losers convention.
Okay, let me put it another way. Given the fact that we've seen the two main opposition parties, Labour and the PDP, severely weakened by internal divisions, would you say that the arrival of the ADC coalition at this point is crucial for strengthening Nigeria's democracy? Because you need a strong opposition to sustain democracy.
So sorry, I was talking not realizing I was muted. The arrival of the ADC is not crucial to the strengthening of anything. What will strengthen the Nigerian opposition is a credible, viable, intelligent opposition. So if we had the sort of the language and the personality of people like Prince Adewale Adebayo, Omoyele Sowore, etc., but they have the frontline space in opposition politics, then that is what will strengthen the Nigerian opposition space. The conglomeration of the deplorables, the den of thieves, and when I'm describing them as a den of thieves, Atiku Abubakar, by all universality in Nigeria, everybody knows him as a thief. Rotimi Amechi, by all of the universality of Nigeria, everybody knows him as a thief. Rauf Aregbesola, by all of the universality of the Nigerian understanding, Rauf Aregbesola was the Minister of Interior, by the way, 8 years under Buhari. You saw how a bastard. The only thing Rauf Aregbesola did for 8 years was to announce when Ramadan would take place, and that was the only that was the only if you're a Muslim, that was the only positive that came out of there. Outside of that, there was not one single thing that you can harken back to Rauf Agbegbesola's tenure as the Minister of Interior that was a positive that benefited Nigerians. Prisons were constantly being broken into, terrorists were constantly being released. It was impossible to get a Nigerian passport. Contrast that with Tunji Ojo, the now new Minister of Interior. So contrast what we're seeing now from the Ministry of Interior to what we saw under Rauf Aregbesola, and this is the person that is coming back to rescue Nigeria. So when I tell you that it's a conglomerate of the deplorables, the ADC, then you know exactly that it is. So there's no equivocation about that. So the viability of the opposition is to get the proper narratives to get to the fore, but the proper narratives cannot penetrate the noise that we get from the obedient space, because they subsume the whole of the Nigerian political landscape with such ethnocentric vitriol that is impossible for reason to have breath. So that's really what needs to happen. Not yet the formation of yet another party, but yet another bunch of tired criminals that have continuously looted us.
Democracy, and Nigeria seemed to be heading inexorably towards a one-party state.
And then look at that. You're saying Nigeria heading towards a one-party state.
I said it seemed to be heading.
Yeah, but you're saying that Nigeria seems to be heading towards a one-party state. Why are you saying that? Because more people are joining the APC because of the performance of President Bola Tinubu.
Well, I don't think it's because of the performance of President. This is nothing personal. I'm just an observer.
That's your opinion.
And certainly my observation is not that it's because of the performance of President
that's your opinion. Because if you look at the performance of President Bola Tinubu, for the first time, Nigeria has a $14.1 billion trade surplus. It has never happened before. Nigeria has a economy is growing at 3.84%, the GDP. So look, there is there's growth in this economy. For the first time, we're seeing that states in Nigeria are not owing salaries the way they used to. Because why? The Bola Tinubu administration, after removing fuel subsidy, there's more distributable funds to the states, in fact. So states are getting at least double what they used to get under Buhari. So that is performance, whether you like it or not. Your opinion doesn't matter.
It's not about my opinion. Yeah. I try not to express opinions. I try to make analytical assessments.
And so if you're making an analytical assessment, I just gave you points to note. Our debt has gone down from 113 billion to 97 billion. Our GDP is growing at 3.84. We had 2 recessions under Buhari. We are seeing growth under Tinubu.
Look, well, I mean, it's the same party.
It doesn't matter.
It's the same APC
it doesn't
party.
Matter
so telling me about Buhari, it's the same.
No. APC was not a party.
Well, you were just arguing that he brought Buhari into office.
Yes, but APC is not a party. APC is a coalition. That's why APC
is a party.
No,
it's a party that was formed by different parties.
Can I explain to you better? APC is a coalition. It is not a party. There are legacy parties built on ideology that formed the APC. All those legacy parties, they don't really agree together. The Congress for Progressive Change has a different political and economic ideology from the ACN, the Action Congress of Nigeria. So ideologically speaking...
So why are they together?
Yeah, that's why it's called a coalition. It happens in England. I schooled in England, you schooled in England. We have
it's an APC party.
It's a coalition.
That's what it's called.
It's a coalition. Now, the ideology behind Bola Tinubu is not the same ideology behind Buhari. And we are seeing progress with Bola Tinubu.
Well, they don't have any ideology. They have visions, they have philosophies, but they don't have ideology.
No, that's not true. Bola Tinubu has ideology, and that ideology has remained consistent since 1989 when he was in the Social Democratic Party. That's why it is very difficult for you to make a distinction between Bola Tinubu and Waziri Atiku Abubakar because they have the same political ideology. They are both SDP people. And don't forget that this Waziri Atiku Abubakar was the presidential candidate of the Action Congress of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu's legacy party that became a member of the coalition.
Indeed. Before we go, let's talk a little bit about you. What do you actually do now? I know we've introduced you as a political commentator, social media influencer, author. Is that what puts food on the table, or do you have a secret job that you do in the UK in the wee hours sort of of the morning, a sort of 9 to 5 job, or you don't do that kind of grunt work?
I have the most paid subscribers of anybody in Africa. Nobody on the continent of Africa has more paid subscribers than me on X, which is formerly Twitter.
So you're a social media influencer.
Please? Can I finish?
I just needed to be clear.
Yeah. If you interject, I can't be clear.
No. So go ahead.
So even if I don't do anything, if I just sleep and wake up, today I'm earning something like maybe close to $1,000, even if I just sleep and wake up. That's why I have the luxury.
Well, I'd like to be you.
Oh, well, that's why I have the luxury to travel all around the world. This year, how many countries have I been to? I've been to 18 countries. Tomorrow, I'm going back to California. From California, I'm going to Ethiopia. From Ethiopia, I'm going to Seychelles. That's why I can say the truth to anybody, because I have a consistent legal income flow, and nobody can muzzle me.
Indeed. And what about the reports that you're about to be made an ambassador by the Tinubu government? Is that a fact, or is that shrouded in mystery?
I don't know anything about that. I deal in facts. I don't deal in reports or rumors.
Yeah, but I mean, have you heard about those reports?
I read it in the newspapers just like you. I read it just like you.
Reno, it's great to see you. And great to see you in person rather than all this internet business from London.
And just before I go, I really want to encourage Nigerians, please dress in made in Nigeria apparel. Everything I'm wearing from head to toe is made in Nigeria. That's the only way we're going to build our economy.
Well, tell that to the government, because they're driving around in foreign cars. You see what I mean? And yet cars are made in Nigeria.
Yes, cars are made in Nigeria. And then we're seeing that this administration is also patronizing innocent, not just with the government, also with the military. So we're going to start somewhere. This administration made it possible for a Nigerian carrier to get direct routes to Gatwick Airport and to London Heathrow. So that's part of what I'm talking about. Thank you, Charles, for having me.
Yeah, well, what about Tinubu's healthcare? Can he have his medical, sort of his hospital treatments in Nigeria?
I'll tell you what you're going to do. Invite the Minister of Information. Let him sit down here and he can answer that question.
I like that. On that note, Reno, great to see you, old chap.
So there it is. As much as I detest Reno Omokri, and I cannot abide the guy for even the microest of a second, it's as cumbersome and as useless as they come. Reno Omokri. So I cannot abide him for even a microsecond. But for as much as I cannot abide Reno Omokri, he has gone round he has gone down the Nigerian political not the political, he's gone round the Nigerian media space and summarily applied Koboko to the wayward behind of these Chancer presenters. So to look at that flogging that he gave the Anambra guy. Which state is that guy even from? The Charles Anyagulu is obviously is an obedient anyway, irrespective of whichever state is from. So well done, Reno. That's the only time I'll be saying well done to Reno, by the way. But before we leave, let me signpost you in the direction of what's to come up tonight. Dupsy may be coming out tonight, if not tonight, tomorrow, but it's built for tonight. We're still working on the modalities. The questions she's asking: over 40, divorced with two or three children. What is the faith of the middle-aged single black woman? So you know those aunties that are single but just fade into the background. So it's those aunties now that Dupsy will be bringing to the fore in our latest outing on the platform. So let me send the link to that particular stream. So you go and bookmark it and dial your excitement to the ready for when Dupsy comes out later on. So that's the session. That's the link in the comment section right there. Click on it, go bookmark it on all of the platforms we're streaming to. Share it as extensively as you can. Dupsy coming out later, asking the question: over 40, divorced with two, three children. What is the faith of the middle-aged single black woman? So that's the question that she's asking, and Adupse would be giving her own inimitable perspective on that particular question in the letter session. So go and bookmark that. So there's nobody in the studio now, so I'm going to bring this to a close. We'll go back to the evening session. We're still coming out later on in the evening to speak to what we were intending to speak to yesterday. Kashim Shetima somewhat rebel rousing. Actually, let me flag that up as well. Actually, so we'll be coming out later on to. Actually, I've got Dupsy books for tonight, haven't I? So we'll see how that plays out. So it's either Dupsy comes out or I do. We've not yet fully finalized then that Dupsy will be coming out, but it's either Dupsy comes out or I do. So whatever it is, dial all your excitement to the One Man Went to More platform. Make sure you've liked the stream. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. Hold yourself in abeyance. Go have lunch and a little bit of a glass of wine, and then come and redirect back to the platform as we carry on the conversation later on this evening. So I'll leave you here. Catch up with you later on in the evening. But here I say, peace.